Calling the meeting order. We'll ask the CEO to see if he's ready with the Zoom and your recording.
Yeah.
You set? Okay. So, first order of business. Confirmation of the minutes. Yep. Mover. Can you introduce the new guy? Right. Oh, good. Sorry, Bill. Yeah, this is the new permanent CAO, Jordan Wilner. Jordan, actually, please address the crowd, where you're from, your background, and welcome aboard.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jordan Wilner. I've been a chief administrative officer for over 10 years. I'm really excited to bring my wealth, knowledge, and experiences to help Cornwallis. I feel it's going to be a great fit. I'm really looking forward to being here, and I'm excited for tonight and what's to come. So thanks, Sam and council, for hiring me.
And it's Jordan's first attempt with Zoom policy, and he aced it. Good job, Jordan. Okay, now we'll go on to the confirmation.
You still need a mover and seconder.
Well, that's what I'm waiting. I'm waiting for somebody to move it.
I'll move that. Be it resolved that the council of the RM of Cornwallis adopt minutes as amended from March 21st, 2023, regular meeting of council.
Back a second. So we get mover. That's what we also drove in a second. Now, so anybody got any questions on the minutes? Call for the question, all in favor? Scared. Adoption of the agenda. I'll get the CEO, he's got some additions there, so I'll get you to,
Yeah. Sites 2 and sites 9, the 2022 spring repairs and the 2023 dust control prices need to be added to the agenda. I'm hoping we could add them as 11.7 and 11.8.
I'll make the motion to be resolved that the amended agenda be adopted and the order of the agenda is authorized to be altered as required with the following additions. 11.7 2022 spring flood repair sites number 2 and number 9. 11.8 2023 dust control program price.
can I have a second? Councilor Maxwell, Councilor Brown, mover, Councilor Brown. Anybody got any questions on the additions? Call for the question, all in favor? Carry. Okay, resolution.
Yeah, to adjourn the regular meeting.
Yeah. Okay, need a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and go into a public hearing. I need a move.
I'll move that. We enter into a public hearing.
That was second. Throw in just a second. So now you in your speak there. I'll call it. All in favor to go into public hearing? Gary. So you want me to read that out?
Well, you called the public hearing.
Yeah, I did. And we closed on it. So now.
Well, we adjourned the meeting, so now we're in the public hearing.
Yeah.
You called it to order.
Yeah.
And you've reviewed our notice of public hearing and confirms that it was in accordance with the municipal act.
Yep.
So now you can open up the public hearing for the public in favor of. Just try to get their names first.
Yes.
We report their name,
Okay.
and if they're speaking in favor or opposed.
That's right. So we are in public hearing. We have the rules, but normally the CEO in the previous reads the requirements for the public hearing.
Like
I know.
notice?
Well, not the notice, it's the what it's for, what the public hearing is for.
Opening of new roads under subdivision on the part of southeast quarter 32-10-19 west of the prime meridian in an AG agricultural zone.
You know. So is that all you have to read over? Because normally there's that letter
Over and above
what we did here, but that's fine. I mean, that's the way the previous CEO did. She stated what the public hearing is for,
Yeah,
and people that are in favor first will hear from the applicant. Then we'll hear from the people in opposition, and they have to state their name. That, there was a section that, was always written out, but that's fine. Okay, so the public hearing is open, we voted for it. Okay, so I guess we'll hear from the applicant now. So, who the applicant, come forward, state your name. And, like the CEO said, please state your name clearly and,
Kevin Keller and Chelsea. Keller Development Career Design.
Kevin Keller and Kate Martinez, correct? Yeah. The floor there.
Yeah, basically, we're just here tonight to discuss the subdivision we brought forward again. This was a subdivision that was before council previously and previously approved. We took some time, went back and redesigned it to better fit the topography of the lands and lay out the lots a little bit differently. We think it provides a better design for the subdivision, and so we're seeking council support tonight to get it approved. We're happy to address any concerns or questions council may have. We're good.
Any council member have a question for Mr. Keller and the applicant? I'll just have a question. So we did approve, just for the audience, this was approved in November 2021, the application for the subdivision, right?
Yeah, correct.
So you went back and redesigned it.
Yeah, basically, we didn't increase the density or anything like that. We just looked at, took a bit more time to look at the land, started doing some of the drainage planning and decided that the lot layout would be better if we adjusted it a little bit. So we made those changes and basically we're back here tonight to see it get approved again.
Another big factor, which is similar to topography, was the water. So we also did a geotechnical investigation to determine where the water was underground, and additionally to determine the natural drainage paths on the site, which we didn't have that information when we did the initial design.
Thanks for the information. Were any other questions? No? So that's all you have to share.
Yeah, we're happy to come back and answer any
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah,
Call us back.
and we did record the names. So the next thing is anybody else in favor of the subdivision application? Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. So last call for anybody in the audience that is in favor of the subdivision application that wants to speak up.
Ask on the,
Yeah,
ask on the internet.
well, we will, once we, okay, there's nobody in the audience, so now we will ask anybody in the audience that wants to speak in favor of this subdivision application.
I'm seeing no chats or anything.
Okay, we don't see a chat, so we'll now hear from any individual that is against or opposed or has some questions about the subdivision application, and I'd ask you to come forward, state your name, where you're from, area, so you can be recorded. Good evening.
My name is Shelley Cokery. I'm here with my husband Sheldon. It's my daughter Chantal. She has done some engineering work for us, so I've invited her to accompany with us tonight. I did bring in a meeting or a letter earlier this week as well. So it's on, you should have it on record. So I think maybe what I'll just do tonight for public purposes for others who want to hear, I'm going to read from the letter and then maybe just add at the end if that's all right.
I can always throw it over on the other, throw it on the TV too, like.
All right, so on April 11th, we received a notice of public hearing for the above named subdivision, which is to occur on April 18th, tonight. Please be advised that we are opposed to the subdivision as currently presented based on the lack of connectivity between our approved subdivision and the one under current consideration. So I should mention perhaps that we are the folks who have developed Cocoa Estates, which is directly to the south of the proposed subdivision in discussion this evening. We're not opposed to the application for the subdivision on its own in our area. For clarification, we are opposing the southwest phase 1 opening of new roads in its proposed states due to the lack of connectivity to our subdivision south of the one under application. South 1 phase 1 of the public road of Myrie Design and Keller Development / Alvin Puhatch and Deborah White must connect to our property line. The original phase 1 plan submitted by Sheldon and Shelley Coproots, which was developed with Brandon Area and Planning, was approved based on its intent to provide connectivity to any subdivision directly to the north of the Coproots subdivision. We built accordingly. The Cornwallis secondary plan speaks to connectivity. Under item 4 of the plan, 4.1, general planning and sustainability, the plan states, the intent of the Grand Valley plan is to guide development in a logical and considerate manner. The plan also states the objectives as follows: to develop the planning area as low density rural residential area using sustainable community design practices while anticipating future intensification of the area in the future, long term. To integrate land development with current and future transportation and infrastructure requirements. To ensure proposed development in the planning area complement rural residential development opportunities elsewhere in the area of Cornwallis and the surrounding areas. We contend that by not providing connectivity through internal residential roads between developments, the long-term intensification is not being considered. Future transportation requirements are being ignored. Ignoring internal connection requirements creates longer and unnecessary road networks that are more costly for the municipality to maintain. It is not sustainable to create road networks that can be avoided through internal connections. Under item 4.3, transportation of the secondary plan, the plan states, its objectives are to provide safe and efficient transportation in accordance with development pressures, to limit the amount of traffic on existing collector roads and direct traffic to internal road networks. Policy states, in order to establish a hierarchy of roads within the planning area, Marsden Road, Bray Road, and Hunter Road shall be designed as collector roads. New collector roads shall be located generally as shown on figure 9 of the conceptual transportation plan. I haven't included that, but it's there. Future development shall, whenever possible, be accessed via internal road networks and shall minimize frontage and driveways along collector roads. Wherever possible, new roads will be provided to create intersections with 90-degree angles to crossing roads. The internal road network must tie into the existing and proposed collector road system in a safe and logical manner. Lands for development of future right-of-ways shall be protected. This includes land required for any future municipal road right-of-way and any provincial right-of-way requirements adjacent to PTH number 1 or PR Road 459. We contend the Coproots subdivision provided one with plans for internal connectivity to the north. The connection was provided because it is a requirement within the secondary plan. Please note that we've included a copy of the drawing of our original plans that indicate the future connectivity to potential northern subdivision from ours. We understand the north subdivision has provided 2 connections onto Hunter Road and has ignored the requirement for an internal road at the quarter line. It is not logical to avoid internal road connections between residential developments. Proper planning would require the internal connection. Has the development to the north designated land for the quarter line internal road as proposed by the plan? The municipality, we feel, does have an obligation to enforce this connection. By ignoring this opportunity to gain right-of-way for future intensification, council would be limiting future development opportunities. We feel it is the council's responsibility to enforce their bylaws. Potential approval of the above-named subdivision sets a precedent that will create distrust with the public and will send a message to future developers that deviating from the plan and process is standard practice. We are including a letter dated February 4th, 2019, addressed to Mr. Wallace that indicates our consideration has been given for future connection to the north. in the event that coordinated development efforts within the northeast quarter section landover is feasible. Our vision that the future proposed connection would be located west of Lot 4 to create a looped road off the cul-de-sac, which would connect to a proposed road within the northeast quarter section. Our plan was approved as submitted. It seems rather unthinkable that council would now approve a plan to the north that does not allow for connectivity, which inevitably would prevent any further development of phase 2 of the Coke Roots development. This is unacceptable to us as the first approved developer under the secondary plan for our area. The application for the subdivision by Myra Design and Keller Development, Alvin Puhatch and Deborah White, fails to provide any connectivity to the Coke Roots subdivision. As such, we oppose this plan and request the plan be designed to provide this required connectivity. Thanks for your time. I would also note that we did meet earlier in December of 2022, and we had a review of this matter. So we have brought forth our concern previously. Approving the plan as such, as it's put forward at the moment, would basically deem the rest of any future development to our land.
Yeah, we have an overlong cul-de-sac already, so we're maxed out on how far we can go, and we do need a secondary access for emergency purposes. So if this connection was not available to us on the property line, and honestly, we're flexible on where that connection could be, it doesn't have to be exactly there, we could put it wherever. But if a connection was not provided for us, the remainder of our lands would be sterilized and would not be developable because we wouldn't have that emergency connection space. So, you know, obviously limiting the RM's ability to gain a revenue on that property tax base as well. So we would be essentially done.
So we're not opposed to a subdivision. We just like to see connectivity to the one that we've already built.
Was there a figure attached to your letter that we put on the screen? Not sure. If you just,
Yeah, the map that
it might be helpful just to show that connectivity connection on the record.
Should be on there. Should be on you.
All right, so can you find that?
Yeah, it was in, oh, you can kind of see it underneath.
Yeah,
Our
so-
subdivision is just to the south and the connection is on the far west side of the cul-de-sac or the north.
right here. It's where we had proposed the connectivity right in here, but like we said, it doesn't have to be there. It could be anywhere along that property line, but the current one under application is not proposing any connectivity to ours, so. That's the objection.
Does any council member have any questions for the? No?
Yeah, essentially for us to move west with any further lots, we at the moment cannot because the road we have there, just in case you're not quite getting it, we can't put any further because we have to extend that road and we can't do that without connectivity to the next one. So we're at a maximum length.
Mr. I just got a question. Use the word sterilized. So you're saying that cul-de-sac is maxed out to provincial
Yeah,
standards?
yes. So anything to the west, like that land that you see to the west of our cul-de-sac, if we don't have connectivity, we would deem it sterilized because we won't be able to do anything else with it.
And how many lots, two groups where is your?
Potentially, there could be another 10 lots there.
10 lots?
And we did, at the time when we did our phase 1, which predates the current application that's before you, we like had engagement on the provincial standards and certainly pushed the limit on like, you know, what's the maximum? Is there any like, you know, exceptions that could be had, et cetera, et cetera. So we just want you guys to know we've already spent a lot of time exploring any other option, any other extensions, et cetera. So we are 100% max. So we would have gone further had we been able to.
I'm just curious, with the cul-de-sac that's there, can our grader turn around in it right now?
Yes, it has been all winter long.
I think it's been, it's been turned over to the county already.
Yeah.
Cocoa Road is a public road now. It's no longer under our. Because the maintenance period was done in the fall of 2022.
Yeah. And my understanding is, to Council Ross, when council did approve that, we got that from our engineer, that is the radius.
Yeah, we did a turning template for it.
Not saying with bigger graders, it might wish someday to be bigger, but we can, for now, that was the municipal standard cul-de-sac. Nobody else has, thank you, folks. We might call on you a little bit later if there's any questions that may arise in your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. Anybody else in the audience that wants to speak in opposition? Last call, anybody in the audience? Now we'll ask for anybody online that is opposing this subdivision application. Put it in the chat if you want to speak in the event we don't hear you. Yeah, we can. We'll turn it back. There's a map that comes in. Thanks. It looks like there's nobody in the chat, so we'll go back to the applicant, basically what the individuals that opposed, if you got something to add from the applicant.
So unfortunately, there was a lot of points brought up, so it might take a minute or two to get through it. First, I'd like to address the secondary plan. As much as I understand what Shelley was saying, a lot of it seems to be misinterpreted from my understanding in my courses in subdivision design. Typically, interior roads lead to your collector roads, and those roads that are developed in your residential areas aren't necessarily supposed to bring a lot of traffic around that area. Like connectivity between subdivisions is always a very big thing in that regard. If you read through the secondary plan, most of those comments didn't actually have to do with connectivity. It just had to do with responsible road design. Having said that, Mr. Puhatch isn't against connectivity, but during phase 2, where it's more appropriate to the design of the subdivision. During phase 1, we don't actually go far enough to give them their access. Additionally, along the south property line, there's this like a very wet area that may even be classified as class 3 wetlands, which conservation has addressed in the comments they sent back to you.
The other piece, I guess, is that there's a huge difference, I think, in a discrepancy here that needs to be addressed, and it was brought up in December, but connectivity is not like secondary egress. They are two different things. So connectivity, Mr. Puhatch is absolutely willing to provide in the later phases of both subdivisions when all parties have the ability to sit down with their design teams and work together and come up with a plan and how to connect. But secondary access is something that if we weren't here tonight, based on what Shelley said, they're stagnated, they're stuck, they're whatever they want to call it. So if this subdivision doesn't go forward, they're in the exact same spot. So what I recall from the meeting in December was they had an option, but it was a more expensive option and it involved going through their yard. And that wasn't very attractive, which I can appreciate. I wouldn't want a subdivision exiting through my yard either. But to come here to council and state that that's their only option is not true. We could probably design 5 different options that give them that secondary egress if necessary, without connecting to L's subdivision. So I just want to be clear about that. Sorry, go ahead.
I'd also like to point out that during the first application, this never came up. As we redesigned, it didn't come up until we got to this stage. But in the meantime, we've gone through 2 issuances of this information to the government authorities. Nothing came back about connectivity aside from maybe Charlotte's comments about connecting in phase 2. And Mr. Puhatch has put in well over $60,000 or $70,000 in design work based on the comments that have come back from the provincial planners and from this council. And it's not really fair to go back and say you have to completely redesign again.
Yeah, and he's went above and beyond, paid for a geotechnical to ensure that the homes being built here are being built on solid ground. Thus, we designed the subdivision to accommodate that. So, the only thing that makes sense from my perspective is that, you know, if connectivity wants to be addressed or added as a condition, it's added in phase two, where both parties can bring their designs to the table for phase two and work together to work those details out. If this connection to L subdivision was so critical, why is it being addressed now? Like, I'm assuming they've sold some lots. From what I understand, the majority of the lots are sold and the phase two is imminent. Why is this conversation happening now? And there's a whole other set of conversations that have to happen, unfortunately, with that, and that's around cost sharing and how you deal with that. When we build within the city of Brandon, we don't just expect to go through the neighbor's yard without having to share in some costs or help build a road, or the city sometimes levies us with a cost and they work it out with the constituent, right? So those are things that are going to require some discussion and some work with council and the administration team and the neighbors to be figured out in phase two, in my eyes. We are not landlocking them. They have options today on the table. It's just a matter of cost. That's what it really boils down to. Unfortunately, that's always the nature of the beast. You can build a longer road, you can go through yards, you can gain additional access if it comes down to it. Again, we're going on the record on behalf of Mr. Huhatch that he's absolutely willing to address connectivity in phase two and work those details out at that time.
When is your phase two?
What's the real estate market going to do? Yeah.
Phase two may also be triggered. We have been in contact with the neighbor to the west, and we're planning on giving him connectivity. He would like to subdivide his property, so if he needs that in a shorter time frame, that may be a discussion as well.
That's immediately west to where your phase one is?
No.
To the parcel, to the 80 acres.
Yeah, so to the west of phase two, so that's why I'm saying maybe that might trigger phase two as well.
And that property owner has already come to the table and worked out some preliminary discussions on cost sharing of the road costs.
Any other councilors, anything else to add or ask? Mr. Geller, Mr. Kent, one of the things that's challenging me on this is it was approved by previous council. Like, what was the main reason for scrapping that approval, what council gave you? And now we're going back. We're almost putting this thing in reverse. And I had some questions for the CEO. Like, what's the legitimacy of this? Because the application number is the same, and I don't want to get into discussion here. I'm a little bit challenged on, have we followed the right process here?
Yeah, we spoke with, I mean, I can speak to that. I spoke to provincial planning, and they apparently have a process of sort of backdating the application and assigning it the same planning number, which is very strange. And I challenged them on that front as well. You're right, this was approved by council previously, and thus the continued investment by the landowner into the geotechnical and taking the extra steps to ensure that this is done correctly. I don't know of any other rural residential subdivision owner that has paid for a geotechnical in advance of subdivision being approved. It's a pretty unique move by the property owner to ensure that what gets done here is done correctly and that the homeowners can sleep at night knowing that their homes are being built on solid ground in the right spot, not in the middle of a wetlands that's just being bulldozed over and filled in, that sort of thing. So I think all of that speaks to the fact that we just wanted to do something higher quality, and we, driven by Al, the owner, spent the extra time, the extra dollars to make sure that we put a better product out. So,
And if you look at what we proposed the second one versus the first one, like we did look at the secondary plan. We took into consideration walking trails and green space along what were our drainage channel, which would kind of look like a creek, saving some natural wildlife area type stuff. This was all from the secondary plan.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think the one thing that I'm concerned council gets stuck on is the fact that they're stuck where they are. And that's, you know, in some ways not wrong, but they're stuck where they are today. Like if this subdivision doesn't go through and we don't put a condition to address this in phase 2, they're still in the same spot. They haven't reached out and made those agreements. And the obligation is not on council or planning or anybody. It's at the end of the day, it's 2 private property owners have to come to an agreement. You can't force them. Community planning said that to us in the meeting. They've repeated that to us. At the end of the day, I mean, as a, you know, we're here on behalf of Al, but the 2 parties have to get together and work those details out. We have no control over that. We have no say over that. I hope they do. I think it's essential to both of them having successful developments. But at the end of the day, that really can't factor in to this decision because they're in exactly that spot right now. As the applicant as well, Mr. Kuhach has every right to go to a municipal board hearing and appeal this. He's the one and only person that does have that right. And so, you know, if there's a condition that is sort of deemed unfair, he has the ability to go down that path, which I don't think any of us want. So I without having the second phase of Cocoa and the second phase of the Kuhach subdivisions in front of us where we can have healthy discussion, talk about the road costs, talk about how to connect them, where to connect them, probably even involve that other landowner to the west. That is the space and time to have that discussion. And it can happen soon. I don't think Al's opposed to that. We've actually done up some concepts. But that's not relevant tonight. You know, what's relevant is this getting approved and that being part of phase 2, just like community planning wrote in their report.
If that's all you have to share for now, you might, we'll plug it back later on. I think this concludes, wants to come back up and get some more comments.
So I would just like to address the questions that were asked. The question of why this wasn't brought forward on the first reading or the first presentation. So my recollection of when this subdevelopment was proposed and the original public was brought, like what, 2000?
November 16, 2021.
Yeah. So at that meeting, Mr. Keller spoke. There was a drawing that was put up. It was a rather rough drawing. And it was explained to the public that were here that this isn't final or anything. There needs to be some changes. There was no roadways shown in the drawing. The way they had their lots presented, we could see that it was in waterways. So it was difficult to oppose something such as a road connectivity because there was no real firmness to the drawings that were presented. It was kind of presented as a concept. So it was difficult for people in the audience to look at something very closely to say, well, maybe that's not detailed enough. And then somewhere after that meeting, between that meeting and Christmas, council approved what was there, which was kind of surprising because we did come as public people ourselves to the office to say, just kind of wondering about those drawings. Like some of those drawings are showing a lot right where the roadways are, right where the waterways are. And how is that lot going to implement drainage or affect drainage on our side? And we were again told, well, it's just kind of a rough drawing. We don't know yet. So in all fairness, it was pretty difficult to oppose something that wasn't really firm. And we can see that now because the drawing that's before us today is different than the one that was presented at that time as well. So that
Then there was also a document that was attached to that approval at the time that said that it was going to be redrawn with connectivity to the adjacent parcel. And we referenced, you know, when we all sat down here in December, we referenced that document. Too bad we didn't have it as well, but there were a lot of things that happened in that original approval era that led us to believe there was like a finalized version forthcoming, and we were somewhat in waiting mode, I guess.
yeah. So, and also I would also contend that in some respect, I don't really feel that it should be necessarily up to landowners per se to decide where connectivity and road development should occur in the municipality. Like, I do feel that as responsible council members, you would want to have say to where you want to have your roadways and not just let that be arbitrarily designed by private designers, helter skelter, you know, a road here and a road there. And ours, have to contend, it was approved based on that connectivity happening. And I agree, right? If you don't build now, we're going to phase 2. Sure, we're gonna have to wait. But we were still approved on what's there. So in the application that comes forward with future development, I would have thought that that would have been a requirement for approval that connectivity should happen there. Because that's what we were approved for. So anything coming forward saying, sure, you can approve, but please note that there is a connectivity for road development here because one subdivision has already occurred. So if you want to develop, sure, just make sure you got a connection here.
And to respond to the comment that they had made about how there's 5 different ways to draw this other access, there isn't. The only other way that you could gain access to this through our parcel would be to go right through the existing yard site, which they live in and intend to live in and retire in and age in. So aside from blowing out their existing home, there is no other option. The only other option is to go to the north. So that's full transparency of the situation.
Yeah, no, we, like in phase 1, we had developed, we were aware that perhaps Mr. Kuhash would like to develop his area at some point in time. So didn't have the discussion with him, but we actually kind of thought we were doing something in fairness by showing that roadway already. We could have used that land for other purposes as well. We didn't have to leave that there. I appreciate the matter of, you know, green space and proper building. We've had to assure that in our subdevelopment as well. There's nothing subpar about our subdivision if that's what's being suggested this evening. We have greenways. We've met all the requirements.
We also did the geotechnical investigation in
Absolutely.
advance of our subdivision application as well, and the water analysis, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Any councilman Brown? Okay, thanks, folks. Okay. Now, we'll, yeah, they've all got to, well, Mr. Keller has one more. Please, Mr. Lee.
I will miss everything at once.
Yeah.
Mr. Keller. Yeah, just to contend to the actual approval. You guys would have it on record. It wasn't some scab drawing. It was the actual drawings. That's a very critical component to me. And I find it very ironic that they're talking about their own yard space as a secondary access. Meanwhile, they're relying on a third-party property owner to get that access. Like that makes, I don't know.
Relying on anything. If you don't develop, we
There's
won't.
two routes.
Like,
The applicants have the.
Yeah, like they own both parcels, right? Like, so to come up here and state to you that they don't have secondary egress is not true. Like, I want to be absolutely clear about that. That is not true. So we have to like set that aside. They have an option. It's not a great option. A better option would be to work with the partner to the north and 2 birds, 1 stone, right? Like connectivity, probably secondary egress, work something out with that. That would be ultimately the best. But to come up here and say that they don't have egress, they're landlocked, they can't do anything, they have options. They could clear the entire parcel that they own and build a road. So I just want to be clear, because it's like some of this stuff is being kind of talked as though it's fact and it's not. So the drawing that was presented on November 21st was a drawing of the same standard that we presented to you guys tonight. It didn't change. Like the quality is not any different. It wasn't faded or I don't know what.
Not to mention that the subdivision application itself includes a subdivision application map done by a legal surveyor, which would be the official property lines had we continued with that original design.
That original design went through the same vetting process that this went through community planning, drainage, like all the different 12 different departments. Nobody challenged the quality of the drawing.
I'd also like to say that in the first design phase, we did do a pre-application with community planning. And we were told about needing a secondary access, so we rearranged our lots at that point as well to have a secondary access. And at no point did anybody bring up that we could have connected to their subdivision. Now, I do think that was a miscommunication or a failure on somebody's part, but not ours. Like, at no point during this entire process has anybody said, here's a subdivision, complete phase 2 set of drawings, here's where you need to connect. Until, you know, we're like, again, like they say, we're $70,000 in design work.
Both parties in phase 2 are gonna require designers and engineers. So I don't see any reason for council to have any part in that. If you want your Keystone Planning to have part in that, knock yourself out. I could care less, but there's 2 competent planning groups designing phase 2 of both subdivisions that can work out connectivity. That's how it's done in the real world. I don't know any other version of that. At the end of the day, landowner, they have to make an agreement, they have to work it out. That is not the responsibility of anybody here.
Thanks. Okay, I'll, thank everybody. The applicants and the phone will have a motion to close the public hearing.
You just call it adjourned, and then we'll have a resolution to
Okay,
enter into the.
I'll adjourn the public hearing at, we've got to state the time at 7:41. So now we need a motion to come out of the public hearing.
Yeah.
Resume. I'll have a motion to resume the regular council meeting. To the council, go ahead. Have a seconder, Councilor Brown. All in favor? Carried. Okay. So looking at the screen back here, too many drawings. We are, I think. 4.5. Yeah. I've got a suggestion for council. We've heard a lot of good arguments, good, challenging ones. We've got some decisions to make, so I am going to suggest to council that we go in camera. There's something here that we need as a council, as the read. I want explanation from legal experts to see if we're handling this correctly. I don't want to make a mistake and drag this thing on. I think we'll ask the CEO to call a meeting in camera, and we'll discuss and maybe seek some help to come out of camera then, and then make our decision, final decision. And we're not going to drag this on for the applicant or for the people that are opposing this. We want to do this right. There's a lot of things at stake here. Some good points. We heard 10 lots sterilized and all that. We don't want to do that. This municipality has to grow. We can't do anything that's going to slow down development. So if I could have a mover that the council goes into camera to discuss a few legal matters, and then ask a question. We can go next door.
Rather than kick everybody out.
Rather than kick everybody out, we can go into the Keystone Planning Office there just for a few minutes. We wouldn't be long. There's some of the concerns that I brought
I'll
up.
make a motion to go in camera and discuss.
I have a second. Councilor Rohan. I'll call for the question. All in favor? No. Okay, we'll go on camera. If you want the audience to say, we'll just go next door and just go. Oh. I'll get somebody to make a motion to come out of camera.
Come out of camera.
Councilor Brown.
Second.
Second by, Mr. Mann. Yep, so we are out of camera. All in favor? Yep. Carry. Okay. So, while we're on camera, we'll discuss some issues that we can't discuss, and we're gonna table our decision. We're gonna reach out to some legal advice and some engineering help WSP, who wrote the secondary plan, and that's what we're gonna do is discuss, we need help with this, to make sure we do things right. There's a lot of good points that came up, and we were hoping with the availability of these two parties, we will call a meeting within 2 days when we have an opportunity to talk to him on Zoom, and then we'll make our decision. And we want this to be a win-win for everybody and for this municipality especially, so we just want to do it right. Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts here and a lot of things to consider, so that's what we're gonna do, just for the audience. Yeah, take your time, 2 or 3 days, hopefully we'll. Yeah, it was like, just gonna tell the audience. Fine. Yeah, so we're. Okay, Roland Pinkerton, I hope I pronounced the name correctly. Their first delegation. Yeah. Mine, yeah, all right. Now we can put the face to the name. Yeah, check for the name of the face.
Good evening, everybody for having me. Welcome Jordan to the conversation. Thank you. Brody Pinkerton on behalf of the Westman Aggregate Service Association. I guess Jordan, you being new to the conversation, I'll just add some context regarding.
Can you talk louder, please?
I sure can. Context regarding the aggregate mining and licensing fees for the RM. In history, that mining fee has been a $10 per annum fee. And just prior to the turn of the new year, there was some meetings that started conversations about increasing that fee. So just to provide some details, council meeting took place December 20th of 2022. Agenda item 7.2.1 titled gravel license and fees. Stated, be it resolved, council authorizes administration to work with the RM legal counsel to revise the interim licensing fee to $6,000 per license. Later at a meeting held the following month, January 30th, I believe we tabled or titled it a special meeting for council and aggregate stakeholders. Some back and forth discussions were had on that date. There was a president or a PowerPoint presentation brought forth to the audience that evening, kind of referenced some income and expenditures towards the aggregate haul road account. I've got a couple of numbers that I'd like to present later here this evening. At that January 30th meeting, one of the comments that was discussed was regarding a forming of a committee. And that committee, I thought it was intended to kind of meet mid-March. That has come and gone. So I guess I'd like to just identify a couple of numbers. Was there a handout that was able to be circulated earlier today, Sam? That came from me? Did Tracy happen to circulate anything?
Tracy wasn't working today. Do you know?
I haven't seen.
Okay, no, that, so the context would be made available in PDF form. She can get that to you maybe later this week. I guess I could.
If you don't mind,
send that.
if you tell them to send it forward to the CEO.
Yep.
If you don't mind.
So you would be aware that the provincial authorities amended the aggregate mining and transportation fees agreement last summer. That increased the rates effective August of 2022. The rates, just to talk numbers, increased by a rate of 74%, both to the mining fee and to the transportation fee. And would be indexed on an annual basis going forward after the close of 2022. So just for sake of discussion of numbers, in the PowerPoint that was presented back in January, there were some revenues and expenditures in the gravel haul road account. I will state that the average of the revenues was just north of $189,000. And the average of the expenditures was just north of $232,000. With those numbers, looking at a 5-year forecast, with the increase in the rates that were approved by the province. That will, by the numbers, result in a surplus in the gravel haul road accounts over the next 5 years. And if the percentages with inflation are on the positive side, that number continues to grow every year, not taking into account any capital expenditures. So with that said, I don't know where the discussion of that $6,000 license fee is.
Bylaw we're introducing instead at $10, or we're doing second and third reading tonight.
Okay,
It's at $10.
gotcha. Okay, I guess just for sake of being on the record, if the license fee for that $6,000 was to eliminate the deficit in that gravel haul road account, the increase or the amendment to the provincial rates last summer, that shouldn't be a necessary increase just due to the increase of 74%. So hopefully there's some consideration of the recent rate increases and where that $6,000 fee discussion goes from there. Any questions of mine? Okay, Jordan, I will get your email address from, actually, can you share that with me at the moment?
Yes, the AO
At cornwallis.nb.ca.
There's a comment.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, thanks, everyone.
Yeah, Mr. Pinkerton, I think the council, you asked about the gravel committee.
Yep.
It was our expectations to form it, but yeah. Appreciate everybody's patience. Jordan started April the 1st and he's still digging himself out of a big paper hole. So
Okay.
we're not making any changes. This council is gonna wait. In order to form a committee, we need numbers. You folks requested those numbers last June. Council has got one sheet of paper, very disappointing. So if you guys wouldn't mind that your association, just be patient. Jordan is looking for data that we need so we can then call a meeting and form it.
Would it be fair to follow up 2 months down the road?
I'll leave that. Leave that up to Jordan. In all fairness, there's a big hole that he has to dig himself out of first. You'd like to speak for him.
Yeah, we'll be in contact.
For sure, appreciate that. Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions? Okay, I'll have a motion, or Council Brown, if you have a question now, I'll have a motion to receive Mr. Pinkerton's delegation. Second, all in favor? Yep, carries. Okay. On to the next. Yep, Mr. Coletta, I believe he's on. Good evening, Dennis. Yes, sir. You can introduce yourself, please.
Everybody, for the people who don't know me, I'm Dennis Paulette from Collect Gravel. I just got a, small speech here. Okay, the problem is the lack of notice to increases in mining and transportation levies. As contractors, we are unable to be competitive to competitively price our products when we are getting continuous tax increases without advance notification. The ask. We would like a minimum of 6 months notice to any increased taxations in the future. Second request. Due to the significant increases in the levy in the last year, we would also request that the levy charged should coincide with when the gravel was tendered. Some of these projects are tendered 1 year, but the aggregate is actually hauled the year later. I believe it is unfair for a contractor to pay levy fees higher than what they were at tender closing. In these unique conditions, the contractor should show proof before submitting yearly payments to the RM. Thank you.
Dennis, what was that last comment there? If you don't mind? What do you want from us?
The last
Yeah, that last comment there.
The last comment. Okay, basically, what's happened is like the last year, like the increase was 97% on like some of my hauls or my increases. And I had some projects that were tendered ahead of time or that we were already, that we're still working on, so it takes a long time. So on these ones, I'm getting hit way more, like nothing was accounted for, like it wasn't like that. Not enough was accounted for, so all this cost has to be bared by me, has to come out of what's left in profits, basically. So anyways, that's why that's what is that clear what I'm asking there?
Yeah.
Yeah, just saying, and I mean, this is gonna be, obviously from now on, we're gonna have a rule, we're gonna know hopefully in 6 months that, it increases and where it's going, so we can plan for that. When we put prices, we know that this is coming, otherwise these like this last one was such a big surprise, such a big jump that there's no way we could account for it.
Then just look at, when you're saying that was the one, the notice that came from the province last August,
That's
correct?
right, yeah,
The
the
74%.
exactly, yeah.
That, just so you're aware, that came from the province, so we had no control over that, just so you're aware.
No, you don't have to increase it to that
Yeah, we
extent.
don't have.
You don't
to.
get to. I get you, you're allowed to go there, but you didn't have to, so. Anyways, that's what if you understand what I'm asking on the second part, okay? Any other questions on that?
Dennis, if I may, could you send the CEO a copy of that? I think that's a fair request, what you're asking, the notification, or we leave that up to administration. Council doesn't make that decision. And to me, that's a very reasonable request to provide notice to the pit owners, the haulers, and that. There's nothing wrong with that. So if you wouldn't mind whatever you were requesting here to put it in writing, I'm not sure if Jordan got all that.
Yeah, I got it, but
I
we
just,
follow what the provincial bulletin happens. So what happens is the province of Manitoba, I think through their MI department, establishes those rates and then they circulate it as a municipal bulletin. Then all the RMs react and then follow that bulletin, because like you said, you don't have to charge. But most bylaws will state that they follow those bulletins as they come. And I think last year's bulletin might have come a little late compared to previous years. Because I have seen other bulletins where they were dated around August, but this one didn't seem to be dated in August.
Yes, see, that's the issue. We never did get any bulletins. We never, no. And then all of a sudden we had an increase and it was basically doubled. So it was just like such a big shock. We hadn't had anything for years. So all of a sudden, boom,
Mr. Cliff, you are aware that that was unanimously approved by the Manitoba Heavy Construction Association. You're aware of that, eh? That's really, when we heard all the backlash, we were quite surprised because we got the bulletin. It was actually right in that bulletin that was unanimously approved by the Manitoba Heavy Construction Association. So if it was unanimously approved there, I think any council in Manitoba had the right to take that fee to that level. Just a comment. I was actually encouraged reading them. Just so you're aware, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
just one question. So, like the rate as we speak today, when would you be doing more bidding on contracts for the province?
It's a continuous thing. As a rule, if we know, like, let's say, things slow down in December, we know that the following year is gonna be, where we're at. That's when the majority, it's like right now, we've already, sent prices out and, it's high time, like it's already, you tendered a bunch of stuff or priced a lot of stuff, So that's why when you find out you got another tax increase in June, it hurts because you didn't see that one coming. So when you guys have it organized, saying this, okay, let's say we have 6 months notice and we have enough, we know 6 months ahead of time where things are gonna be with these taxes, great, then we can work with that. Second part, what I said is sometimes now these projects are taking longer. That's why we really need to know ahead of time where things are at. Years ahead, so this decision you guys will make shortly, give us as much notice as possible. That's why I'm not talking about this 6 month, and then we know where we're going with this.
On the bear pit, absolutely. Yeah. He's asking if we could ask the politicians that at the AMM convention, when the ministers appear before all the councils and open up microphones. I told him absolutely he could.
Ask which part,
asking for.
For the
One
notice,
heads up.
but what are the councils with this, so we can provide you with an
I
advice.
think you guys have that already. Did they explain to you guys that you can do CPI after that? So I think it was
There's
written
something in there about, I don't have the.
Yearly
bullet.
CPI, you can max out on a yearly CPI, and that's what we don't know with the CPI. I think that part might not be clear. Like, are we running 7% inflation or 3% inflation? That part's not quite clear. At least, there was some kind of formula built out there. And again, it's not that I'm not gonna push you guys to go there, because you don't have to go there. It's a max you do. And that's when we're gonna find out, obviously, with the budgets, where we are with money. Do we need to increase these taxes, or now we're gonna have a surplus, things are gonna be all right, That's more things you guys will see shortly, right? With the aggregate committee, you guys will be able to tell us where it's at, and we'll be able to make decisions, or hopefully help you guys with all that situation is.
Yeah, it's just a comment, I forgot to mention, Mr. King, you can go on our website. KGS did a report, cost estimate on all our roads. I'd encourage all the gravel pit owners to read that, and I'm not gonna guarantee there's not gonna be any surplus, but KGS is a large engineering firm that put an estimate on there, what it costs to rebuild a road. The costs that are in here, I don't think we're gonna have too much reserve based on the way they're recommending rebuilding roads, and it's just a document that is yours, you're a taxpayer, you got access on our website.
Right on the website?
Yes, it is, yeah, sure.
I will definitely look at it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I caught my eye that that's gonna be a lot of money based on their recommendations. There. Yeah, great. Anybody else have any question for them? Okay, thanks a lot, Dennis. Yeah,
Thank you.
yep. Okay, I'll have a motion to receive Mr. Collette's, yep, Mr. Ross, second. There, Mr. Maxwell, second. Yep, anybody have a question? All in favor? Here.
So the next reception delegation, Paul is unable to appear tonight. So we'll try over here and see.
Do we need a motion to table that one, or just not, no action? No action, okay, no action. Karen,
So.
our next delegation is via Zoom, so we want everybody to be patient here while we're working out the details. You online?
Hi, I'm ready to go ahead. Okay, did council receive the letter and list of resident supports that I provided with my delegation?
Yes, we did, Karen.
Okay, thanks. So I won't read that letter back out to you. Really, what I'm here for tonight is I'm asking council for a special permit authorizing the operation of off-road vehicles within the RMORV bylaw boundaries to allow for the Waggle Springs Hall to host a poker derby. We don't have any of those details on the poker derby as to where, when, any of that until we know if that bylaw can be, you have a special permit for that bylaw for the day. So that's what I'm asking council for.
So you have to ask for us tonight, Karen. I'll ask any other counselor here if they got any questions.
I just want to say, I met with Karen out at Wagner Springs Hall there. And, they want to do a good thing. They want to do a fundraiser for raising money for the hall. I support everything in principle, but everything's got to align with the law and stuff like that. So we've got to do our homework to make sure that we can allow this to happen legally and safely, and make sure that we're not compromising the municipality in any way in terms of legal risk. So
according to the Manitoba Off-Road Vehicle Act, Part 3, 40.1, it does state that the local authorized enforcement agency may issue a special permit authorizing the operation of off-road vehicles participating in parades or special events to be operated upon a roadway or shoulder. So it would, to me, reading that in the act would say that the RM could give that approval.
I'll make a comment here. I was on council, Karen, when that bylaw was introduced, and the question a few of us had back then, you've got the provincial ORV bylaw, why have another one? And it was a little bit confusing. I wish we would have just stuck with the provincial ORV to make things a little bit clearer, but I did, Karen, after you first approached council 6 weeks ago or whatever, the interim CEO asked to reach out to the municipality's insurance provider. Like Councillor Ross said, we've got to make sure we do things right. And we did hear back from our insurance provider. I'm not going to read you the whole letter, but they've got some ideas around safety. Like they're talking 5-foot high fences. Who's going to be responsible for that? Is a fair question. EMT and paramedic presence on site. Again, that's going to be an action item. Gear requirements by the participants. Are they going to be fully, but is that going to be addressed? And waivers to be used? Those are questions that this council will be challenged with if we want to grant, if that special permit. So we need to do some homework. This is not an easy decision for any council, but we just want to make sure that we're not going to put the municipality in a liable situation. But at least we've got some feedback from our insurance provider that came to the CEO actually. So we do have some information to deal with if we're going to grant this exemption. Number of things to consider, just for your information, Karen. Yeah, anybody else have any questions for Karen or? Yeah, okay, Karen, you don't have anything else, we'll get the CEO to get back to you when we have a little bit more information and probably work with you on that one and council members.
Sounds good. Thanks for your time.
Okay, Karen, yeah, good night. Okay, I'll have a motion, somebody make a motion, we receive the resolution. Who else? Like them there? Councilor Rohan, second, all in favor? Carried. Okay.
Do you guys have any verbal committees?
Not yet.
No. So then I haven't received any petitions.
No.
So then what's been brought forth to you next is the pilot communication.
Yeah.
Did you normally go through each item or you just either act on or not?
No, what a councillor would do is make a motion to receive and file all communications received. Second it, then if council members have a question on a particular item, we open the floor. That's what we normally receive. So if I have somebody to make a motion.
I'll make a motion, be it resolved that following communication be received. CN, I guess that's Railway 2023 Vegetation Program. Municipal Board of Manitoba decision and order number B23-003. Municipal Relations Bulletin. And then be it further resolved that following communication items be moved to general business. Burns Mandel quote engineering service agreement and a request to tender roadside mowing.
Can I have a seconder for that? Councilor Roman, second one. Anybody else have any questions on those? Call for question, all in favor? Carried. Yeah, 8.1. Good. I'll have a motion. The accounts. The motion is under 8.1. Someone wants to read that?
Be resolved that the council of the RM of Cornwallis do hereby adopt and approve a list of accounts for expenses for checks numbered 11211 to 11270 for a total amount of $138,919. And further be resolved that the council of the RM of Cornwallis hereby adopt and approve payroll of council and MP's expenses in the amount of $30,566.10.
Have a second. Councilor Maxwell. Anybody have any questions on that? Call for the question, all in favor? No, carried.
So one of the things I like doing with the council is provide you guys with any kind of financials. I appreciate the patience you guys have shown with me with it only being day 9 or whatever they were at on the job. So far, my time has not really been able to be spent too much on getting your financials up to date yet. I've completed your 2021 auditor adjusting entries and reconciled that to the audit report. But aside from that, I'm being made aware of what kind of holes are existing, but those holes are quite deep and date quite far back. Right now, I would say September 2022 is kind of where I have to start still. So these unaudited, it'll be a lot larger package once I'm more confident and familiar with your financials. But right now, I just wanted to give you just a quick snapshot of just your general operating fund and just the revenues and expenditures for the months of January to March. So you have an opportunity to see it. Now, again, I ask for a little bit of appreciation to the fact that there's going to be a lot of items that are going to be noticeably almost missing figures, but that's because there's an order of steps that need to be done. An easy example would be one of the first lines when you look at a general operating fund revenue and expenditures is your tax penalties. So you look right now and this unaudited financial statement only says $41 in tax penalties. But that's because interest hasn't been calculated in the month of December. So I didn't want to rush in and calculate interest on January, February, March, while knowing that December's interest hasn't been applied yet. And that same thing goes for the expenses. But at least it gives you guys a little bit of an idea of what's in our computer program of ins and outs. I label them as unaudited because they will obviously be amended and changed and updated, especially when time allows for further. But just because it's my first meeting, I wanted you guys to at least see where your general operating fund expenditures are. Out of those list of accounts that you guys have been approving for the whole year of 2023, they're all in here. And at least it gives you guys a little bit of a snapshot. So in summary, right now, revenue in is $14,000 higher than revenue out. And I think we all kind of understand where the revenue in has come from this year from our aggregate revenues. So that's all I can kind of provide you at this time until I'm able to actually allocate the care and attention that's required to bring your books up from September to April. That's what I wanted to just show. There's your, your aggregate revenue is the 396 number out of 500,000. So we appreciate them paying by their February 28th deadline.
Thanks a lot, Jordan. That's a great explanation, and we're looking really forward to, as you hone in on these things to make this really clear for us. Because we're not accountants.
Well,
Yeah.
at least it gives you guys a plan.
Yeah, well, we really appreciate the work.
So I have prepared a resolution that says where at the time of this meeting, the financial records have known errors and discrepancies dating back to September 2022. But I would like council to just accept these unaudited financial income statement as presented for just general information.
I can have a mover and make that. Council Ross, seconded. Council Maxwell. Does anybody have any questions for the CEO? Good. Call for the question. All in favor? Here.
So this little report will appear online,
Yeah.
but again, there'll be much more in-depth reports moving forward once I'm able to pull things forward here.
So we're on to 9.1, right? Would you mind, because we had the delegations here tonight about the gravel, you want to explain to the audience and to the gravel people what you've been doing with this gravel bylaw? We're not making any big changes, it's just that your findings and your resolutions.
Yeah, so essentially, it's very similar to what's always existed. the big things that matter right now are found a little further down. With once again, you guys have two different things. You have your mining applications and your mining licenses. We're still holding the mining license fee at $10 with the second and third reading. And then we get into, as we talked about before, the provincial bulletin that establishes the rates. And that's where these are set. And then once again, I just referred to other municipalities as well, just to make sure that the things that were kind of existing before in these previous RM bylaws that I'm repealing haven't changed too much. So I sought input and advice from 3 other RMs who all one already has a pass, 2 who definitely have readings on them. So once again, for the aggregate companies, they shouldn't notice really anything different because I tried to keep it, the application and licensing forms identical to what they've previously seen. And that's where we're at right now for second and third reading.
Yep. Okay.
If I may,
Yeah.
so this is first reading now?
No, second and third. Second and third, we already gave it first reading.
Okay, so second and third.
Yeah, on February 21st, it was introduced.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I can have a mover to for the second reading of this bylaw from the CEO. Revised, Councillor Drohan is the mover, I have a seconder. Yep, Councillor Maxwell, with his second reading, so now we can discuss it, because second reading, we couldn't get the first. So does any council member have a question for the CEO? Like you just explained, there wasn't no drastic change, you just put it in the proper format. Okay, nobody has any questions, I'll call for the question, all in favor? That's the second reading.
Oh, wait, also is, I changed the bylaw number. That bylaw number was incorrectly numbered on the February meeting. It was actually your 2022 financial plan bylaw number. So, we're giving second reading to bylaw and repealing, so. You're renumbering it from 1707-06-2023 to 1714-04-2023. Just because it'll be problematic in the future if we have 2 bylaws numbered 1707. And I just wanted to provide that clarification.
Great. So now I'll have a motion for the third reading. It's there.
It's there. Be it resolved that the council of the Rural Municipality of Cornwallis hereby give third and final reading bylaw 1714-04-2023.
And I have a seconder. Councillor Drohan. Anybody have any questions? All in favor?
Wait, all third readings of bylaws are recorded votes?
Yeah.
So you're aware, it's called a recorded vote?
Yeah, okay. So, all in favor? Everybody records a yes. Approved. Is that good enough?
Yep.
You want me to call out the names?
Not if they're all yes, it's easy enough for you, right?
Recorded. Okay. Good. Oh, mobile home bylaw. The next one, which is 9.2.
I had moved by Shane, who is the second mover on the third reading?
On the third reading? Councillor Maxwell.
Thanks.
Yep. And for the EA for everybody. So now if I'm going too fast, just slow me down. Sorry.
To do the second reading of the mobile home bylaw?
Yeah, 9.2 that we're given second, we've already given it first reading, so now we're doing second reading on it.
I'll move to be resolved, the council, the RM of Cornwallis hereby gives second reading to bylaw number 1708-02-2023, being a bylaw of the RM to establish fees for mobile homes and repealing bylaw number 1669-04-2017.
So the only material difference in this bylaw from the first reading, or do you want to get second? You want second?
Well, explain it, actually, that's a good explanation for the seconder, so. Yeah.
The only thing was to reduce your schedule down your first reading had it set for 5 or 7 years. Whereas right now, we'll just bring it for 2 years and then allow for review, revision and understanding. Rather than commit to a long-term item.
So can I have a seconder? Yep, Council Maxwell, second that one. Thanks for the explanation. Anybody have a question for the CEO with the schedule? If not, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Carry. Now we'll give a third reading and we'll report that vote to it.
I'll make that motion. Be it resolved, the council of the rural municipality of Cornwallis hereby give third and final reading to bylaw number 1708/02/2023, being a bylaw of the RM to establish fees for mobile homes and repealing bylaw number 1669/04/2017.
Okay, that's the mover, seconder. Council Maxwell. Does anybody have any questions? All in favor? You want to record it? Carry. Everybody, yay. Yeah, okay, yeah, everybody, yes. No, the organization and procedure, well, we decided to.
We'll just leave that
Until we get caught up. Now, for the audience, 9.3, 9.4, the organization bylaw and procedure bylaw, we're gonna jump over it. The CEO is working with us to form committees and we're gonna discuss it. Okay, now 9.5. That's what everybody's here for, I'm sure, is to give first reading to the financial bylaw. Levy for property taxes. Resolutions in front of you, folks.
Be it resolved that the council of the RM of Cornwallis now introduce and give first reading to bylaw 1713/04/2023, being a bylaw to levy property taxes for the year 2023.
There's a motion. Councilor Maxwell. No, we can't discuss it in first reading. No discussion in first reading. Yeah, that's what we've always been told, so, yeah. So, just for the audience sake, there's no discussion. You'll probably wonder why don't we discuss it with first reading? We're gonna have a meeting later on to move our May meeting to finalize the second and third reading in May. So just for everybody's explanation.
There'll be a public hearing.
Yeah, public,
or
yeah. This is just to get the ball
presentation of the financial plan in May.
Yeah. I'll now call for the question on first reading. All in favor? Carried. While we're at that stage, Jordan, just for the audience, and there's a few out there, we give the 5 councils a snapshot that we always ask previous council of our own taxes. What have you found? You don't have to give us the percentages, use that report. Yeah, that report.
I don't have that because I was emailed to council
Yeah, okay.
individually.
That's fine. Exceeded
But the
increase.
proposed mill rate right now is 6.25 mils.
Yeah, okay, that's. Yeah. There it is.
And then we know what the education mill rates are too.
Yeah. Okay.
I can always work with ratepayers too, if they come in
Yeah.
and they want me to explain what that would kind
There.
of look like.
To their vote, yeah, that's good. That was always good. I always enjoyed it to see what it does to our taxes when we were proposing. Yeah. Okay. Tax levy, now on to 10.1.
Yeah, I got some unfinished business items I want you guys to work through.
Unfinished business? Yeah, number, like, under 10, so we got 10.1. That's the first one.
I'll make a motion be resolved that council of the RM of Cornwallis hereby adopt and implement the abuse and molestation policy for the rural municipality.
Have a second. Councilor Lawson moved it. Councilor Rohan the second. Anybody have a question? All in favor? Carried. Greater tires.
So we collected 3 different price quotes. And the recommendation being put forth are the purchase of 6 Westlake tires from Denver.
motion is there.
I'll make that motion. You can go ahead. Be it resolved, council authorized purchase of 6 Leslie grader tires from Denrain Tire at the quote price of $9,134.70 plus tax.
Can I have a second? Council Maxwell? Anybody have a question? All in favor? Carry. 10.3. Keystone Planning Operating
Yeah,
Plan.
be resolved, council accept the KPD 2023 operating budget as presented for its inclusion in the RM's 2023 financial plan.
Second,
I'll second.
Council Maxwell. Anybody have a question? All for the question, all in favor? No. You will email KPD it. I think the request was. Right,
Yeah.
so they can submit the invoice. There was an email.
Oh, okay.
Okay, 10.4. Weed inspector.
I'll make the motion. Be resolved. The RM of Cornwallis appoint Mark Colton as municipal weed inspector for 2023.
Second. Anybody have a question? All in favor? Here. Dwelling. 10.5. Yeah, go ahead.
I only got one for, small.
I sent you parts on Tuesday. Did not receive.
That's what I thought you had mentioned there, Brad, to me. You got 2 when I seen one. I thought, well, maybe something changed.
Anyway, for smalls. Basically looking at putting. Second dwelling, on about 11 acres. Seeking approval to put a dwelling on 11 acres on Laurie Road, about a mile and a half northeast of here. I don't know if you guys want to speak to it.
Well, it's not a public hearing.
They've always spoken in the past, just
Yeah.
why they want to do it kind of thing. Sure.
Process is, but just looking to put a second place up on, or dwelling on the property, just kind of a slab. 700 square feet, 26 by 26 for a family member to live with me and my sister. Yeah, that's basically the reason. She just isn't really able to have a place anywhere else, and best fit kind of I thought was to allow her to come kind of live up at my home on the property, as it's almost 12 acres and there'd be more than enough room, I thought, so.
Is it an RTM where you building?
No, it's just gonna be a slab, built a foundation down slab, just one level.
But are you building it yourself? Or?
Well, yeah, we would get contractors also done to help build it, right? So they'd have to obviously have a plan and all that in place. But it's kind of.
Anybody else? Question? So I got a question. So you own the property.
Correct.
And you want your sister to build a second dwelling. So I hear slab, so that's a permanent structure, right?
Correct, yeah.
And I don't see a site map there. Was there a site? Was there?
Should have been on there, so, you know.
Is it submitted?
Could have been. All part of the same email.
I got 4 pages.
Yeah. No, there's Cornwallis building, that's the proposed site here. And the proposed building will be. On the northwest corner, the proposed. Nothing. Permanent setback and like that. So to give council a better idea as well, according to your bylaws. Generally speaking, second dwellings are for family members involved in an agricultural operation. I just know in the past, council has shown some leniency to that. So I'll leave it up to council to decide whether they approve or reject. If they reject, then the application dies here. If they approve, then all initial uses, zoning, everything that will have to be met prior to building a second dwelling.
Just a question, oh, sorry. Yeah, we didn't see that, so the applicants,
This property.
we didn't give much information. Like in the past, we have been lenient with farming applications and elderly family members. But this is a permanent structure.
Which would be subject to Keystone planning rules.
Yeah.
With, even on the drawings, it still might be subject to change, because there's frontage issues and other items like that, but this is whether or not council will allow the.
Yeah, and if it's approved, we'll have to follow.
Staff dwelling before handing it over to KPP.
Just a question. For the to Brad, see, like we didn't see any of these drawings. Now that it's a permanent fixture, permanent, should this, will this qualify under public hearing, like to get
To
noted
build a dwelling, would have to be a conditional use for a non-farm dwelling again, yes.
for what?
For a non-farm dwelling again, yes.
For the public hearing?
A conditional use for public hearing for non-farm dwelling, if council allows a second dwelling to be a thing. That would come after this.
So it would give the
You're just giving-
opportunity to the residents of the affected area to speak up.
If you approved it now, you're just giving initial approval.
Yeah.
To actually build, you have to do conditional use for a non-farm dwelling, and then obviously
Yeah.
all blueprints.
Okay,
setbacks.
I'm okay with that because I really believe that people in the area should have be made aware of or will be made aware of now, but this is just to get the ball rolling. So we're not approving a structure or anything.
I'll make a motion, whereas Keeman and Lloyd Small have requested the opinion of council to construct a second dwelling on their property located northeast 291018. Therefore be it resolved, that the council of the rural municipality of Cornwallis views the requested as a permitted agricultural use. Further be resolved, the staff dwelling in the opinion of council is essential for the maintenance, operation, and care of the permitted use. Approved Keystone Planning District to proceed with the application.
I'll second the motion.
My computer, okay, there it is. So now. Yeah, that's my mom, so now we can discuss it. This is a little bit different, in my opinion. In the past, I mentioned it before, on farm dwellings where they assist on the farm, but this one, we've got some work to do, and we really need to invite the public hearing to the residents there to see what they will say, in my opinion, just kind of.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Does it make much of a difference whether it be a permanent structure or trailer, modular home? No? Because it's not too particular on exactly what the structure has to be.
Yeah.
Preferably a permanent structure would be longer lasting, probably better quality, would look better, right?
Whether it's a mobile, RTM, modular, built in place, it's all
the same, okay. I just didn't know if that was kind of more of the thing that was up in the air. Or what, so, okay.
To the public hearing, you're gonna have people giving us some tidbits. I'm not a legal advisor, and I'm just wondering why not subdivide. That's the.
Zoning amendment would be required.
What's that?
A zoning amendment would be
Zoning. Yeah, okay, we'll, I'll support it for now, but we need to hear what the people have to say via the public hearing process.
For sure.
You heard some a public hearing tonight, so we'll get the ball rolling and see what comes up. And we'll have to do our homework. Yeah. Anybody have a question? Yeah, so, no, does anybody else have any other questions? Okay. All for the question, all in favor, get the ball rolling. With, okay, work with KPD and the public hearing.
So I'm assuming there's no way for the second one then?
What's that?
I'm
So we
assuming
can add it to the agenda, if you can.
it's just a very simple one. I know I did send it. Up to you guys.
We've got no documentation, so where is it and what? We're
Uh,
gonna have a special meeting here, Brad, shortly, with the other public hearing. Why don't you work with the CEO?
Okay.
Instead of being rushed through, I'd like to have as much information as possible.
Ma'am, there's a time condition on this one, so that's why I'm here tonight, and I submitted it on time to Brad. Brad submitted it, so I'd appreciate it if we could get to it tonight, because I don't wanna lose the deposit or have to be fined for if it takes, because the house is being moved off of farmland, and the farmers wanna get to it. So I don't want to be penalized for not being able to move it here.
Like I
So
say,
that's why
Mr. Hart, I got no
everything was
information.
submitted on time, so I'd like the council to give leniency that everything was done properly. And it's not my fault that it wasn't, that it's not in the agenda, but it's gonna cost me.
Okay.
It's gonna cost me money. So
Well,
that's
you
why I'm
appreciate
asking.
it. We're blind here. we've
I
got
know, so
no,
I figured just. let
so
Brad
if
explain it to you quite quickly.
whereabouts is it and what's it asking for here?
do you want to explain? You want to explain where your property is? I don't know how many miles south and how many miles.
Okay, Sam, you've been to our property.
Oh, it's on your property, okay.
Yeah, it's, we're at 8919.
Yeah,
It's a dairy farm.
yeah.
So we're asking for a second dwelling on agricultural land. Originally, we wanted a third, but Brad said it would be impossible to get it cleared, so we're going a second on a different quarter. So, yeah, it's just a second dwelling being moved in
If you know where his property is.
for agricultural purposes.
How many miles south would you?
Oh, Bearsford Road, 349. Yeah, so,
The dairy.
and 2.5 miles west.
There's property there.
Yeah, this is, but this one is for agriculture.
Oh, yeah. there's a dairy.
Yeah, that's where- Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, that's for agriculture, dairy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like it's a grain farm, it's a dairy where I'm there 5 a.m.
No, that's, I know what it is. No, I'm just trying to-
Yeah, so it's,
Yeah. So do we have a resolution?
Take a moment to add it to the agenda, 11:11.
Yeah.
And then I can work with Brad right about it.
Okay, folks, so because they did submit it on this card, I'll need a motion, make a motion to add the item on the 11. Yeah, so it's okay, so. Yeah. Can I have a second?
I seconded.
Ed? Yeah, okay, we'll go to 11:11, have a resolution ready.
Same scenario.
Is that okay? We're gonna-
Yeah, so, and it's,
I just want to be in the start.
as we moving on, we'll all be brought up to code. If it's not up to code, all renovations required to be as a condition of permit. Just so you're all right.
Is it gonna have a secondary statement?
It's on a different quarter, right? It's on a different quarter. It's on the quarter.
So it's one to the north of the dairy farm. Yes.
Two residences on one quarter.
Okay.
There's two.
So we moved it to
residences on
the-
one quarter and one moved to the other.
So we moved it to 11:11, so I'll call for the question to move it to 11:11. All in favor?
And it's for a family member that is actively involved in farming.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
This is just put on the agenda.
Yeah.
Then we'll.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Yeah, this is.
We can actually.
We'll get the CEO to think about a resolution once here. Studies and get it there. Yeah, okay. So we are now at 11, general business, 11.1. What's that? 11.1. Yeah, 11.1, the gravel tender. Oh,
Are we
Yeah.
gonna do this one?
Or 11.
Oh, we're
But you
gonna.
can always amend your agenda as presented.
well,
You
11:11.
do 11:11.
Oh,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, so this is 11.
So the request is, they're requesting permission for secondary dwelling on northeast quarter 8, 9, 19 west within an AG zone.
Correct.
And this is almost same kind of resolution then, right? We have to view it as a staff, as an accessory building, staff dwelling.
It's where the dwelling will be for a staff or a family member working as an active member of the farm.
That farm, that,
And that makes
those
the
ones we have
resolution
done in the past.
Which is what your bylaw requires.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's a little bit different than the
That
one.
one's very simple, yeah.
So you wanna deal with that now, then? We said 11, but I'm okay dealing with it and get it out.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
I just.
You want to dispute anything on it?
So he's moving
An existing house, yes. I've seen pictures of it, anything, so it's gonna need smoke alarms. Anything that's not up to code would drop the code as a condition of the permit.
And it's for the dairy, so.
As a, yeah, same thing as all zoning have to be abided by and stuff like that. So that's facts.
We're just waiting to see what it was.
What's the age of the house that's being moved?
Under 25 years, then we'll have to do an inspection over 25, and that was brought up to. And we didn't honor it, it's in usage.
You should see it now on your agendas as
Under what, 11? Okay, it's there. So if somebody wants to make a motion,
Yeah, I'll make the motion, whereas 6728473 Manitoba Limited have requested the opinion of council of constructing a second dwelling on their property located at northeast quarter 080919 west, therefore be it resolved that the council of the farm of Cornwallis views they requested as a permitted agricultural use. Further be it resolved that the staff dwelling in the opinion of council is essential for the maintenance, operation and care of the permitted use. And approved Keystone Planning District to proceed with the application.
Councilor Maxwell. Anybody have a question?
I wonder if I said it's crazy.
Yeah, you second. Council Brown's moving and Council Maxwell. Anybody have a question? Yes, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, carry.
Thank you very much.
We'll move that house there.
Thanks, council.
Once again, my apologies. When I came in, the email had over 400 unread emails.
That's all.
So it's like,
That's all we got.
my priorities and there's still quite a few.
You are allowed to work at midnight, just so you know. No, just.
Yeah.
We can stay home. Okay, now we are at 11.1, the gravel tender. Right in front of you.
I'll make the motion be resolved there on a Cornwallis authorized 2023 special A-based course gravel tender for distribution and advertisement.
I'll second it.
Councilor Brown moved it. Councilor Maxwell seconded it. Anybody have a question? The question I got is on the location. It's not clear what, like it gives us the roads,
Yeah,
but it doesn't.
well, because before your tender just said at various locations, we
Exactly.
were hoping this would at least allow the people reviewing the tender to have an understanding of where we want this aggregate to go.
But that's a good point. But shouldn't we, I thought we discussed marking the map. Because if the pit's over here and the roads are over, the hauling is a big dollar ticket item.
Yeah,
So should we have not saying 2,000 here, 3,000 there, 4,000 here? Because if the contract, he's gonna bid on something, he's got a general idea where it's going. I thought we had discussed the marking the map. And identifying what each mile will take, no?
Basically all within a area.
Yep, it is, but it would be, as long as the phones don't get bombarded when you put it on merch. Or the Brennan Sun, where are we gonna advertise it? How many miles of this road? Because you know what I'm saying?
well, it seemed like it was quite a working relationship too on ensuring
Yeah, they're right there.
Curry's Landing Road, Higgins Road, Magazine Road, Kissip Road.
So Curry, for example, Curry's Landing Road, that's the main artery, okay? How many miles of Curry's Landing Road?
From 58 north to 60 north to 2 miles.
That's right. So how many or how many yards on 58 north? That's the unknown, but it just,
Correct.
yeah, so,
Well, it does say at the very beginning there, 10,000 tons.
yeah,
Yes,
that's the total amount.
for at the various locations.
So,
Previously, you always just had various.
that's right, and we
This has
all,
been just adding in these roads. That's what Shane and I worked on.
okay,
Just to give people an idea of where this application of the aggregate will be placed. And again, that's always subject to change too.
well,
Council reserves the right to put it anywhere else
so
too.
we really don't have a concrete number for that grounds. Going in, and the quantities,
10,000 is your
yeah,
quantities
that's the quantity,
and your locations are estimated to be currently at these locations.
estimate.
They still have to bid it. Cause this tender for reconstruction requirements for various roadways. We kind of left it vague, but we wanted to give people, well, cause it's always at the municipality's discretion.
But
They don't pre-choose. So they go out there and they work on the road and they're saying, well. Like, for instance, if they're doing one where there's multiple miles, they could say, well, mile 1 is worse than mile 3. So knowing that we have 10,000 to work with, we're gonna allocate more to this mile. This mile will still get some material. But they don't break it down into specific
well, it should
not
be,
quantity per
like
mile.
when you tender something out, you gotta know where the destination is to do a
Yeah,
proper tender.
The destination's there. But you want road 56 at road 101 for 100. That's not how the corporation operates. The corporation has to have flexibility in knowing they have 10,000 to play with. And then they make out that plan. And then it comes back to council for,
This is
approval.
for crushing and delivery.
Yeah,
It's a big, if you ask a contractor. What the delivery is when there's a 5 mile or a 6 mile, there's almost a 7 mile gap there.
yeah,
So. If the pit is right beside where the majority of the gravel is. That would be fair, but if the majority has to be. Hauled 7 miles, it's unfair for the people tendering to submit an active tender. That's why I struggle. With the description here.
well, I'm sure if any of these contractors who wanted to bid on the job, own the municipality, they would be provided Shane
Now you-
with them to explain it.
You just explained it, so if we would clarify it properly, they wouldn't need to, if you would say.
But we don't do the specific until they're actually out on the road in June or wherever, and they can determine.
This
If,
is for haul roads,
yeah, if the 58 mile needs more material than the 59th mile. They're not gonna stick to this tender and say, well, this tender said 100, 100, 100. They're gonna say 200 here, 50 there.
you know,
If I might intervene for a minute, because I know
No.
lots of this. We just do an average. If it's 7 or 2, we do an average in the middle. That's how we price it. Thank you.
Oh, as a bidder,
That's a bit.
yeah,
And again, the highways, when they did it, would also have a small section of budget, which they simply call extra work. And if it turned out that suddenly you had one at 13 miles instead of, Mr. Gilbert's 5 miles. He would put in and say, well, you're making me go an extra 5 miles, I need some of that extra work, but in order to go to 13 instead of 5.
well, that's not what this reads, though, but
And then that
anyway.
budget may not get spent. either.
That's fine.
Right.
Now, what, have we got something in here, we discussed also verification of receipt, what's your plan? Like.
like the contractor needs to have insurance, or you
No,
talking
no,
the
no.
product?
The product delivered,
Records to be completed and submitted in the manner by the municipality must contain a copy of all scale tickets.
yeah, let's deal with how about the dumps, is somebody gonna sign up, have you got a plan to verify the dumps? A checker, a road
You
checker?
guys let Peter go and you never filled them, so you don't have a foreman to be able to implement those kind of actions over the transportation services department.
There's a thing called GPS. We'll talk about it later, yeah.
Well,
So how many, any indication how many yards per mile this indicate?
this is just your tender
Just a
for
pile
the
of
10,000 and then
And just go spread it?
with
No
the
detailed
intention for
plan.
it being in these areas.
I can't support that. There's just not enough meat and potatoes there to, we're basically saying, here's 10,000 tons. We've got a few roads on there. And the roads need fixing. And I expressed it at our last meeting. We need a detailed plan. That's not a detailed plan enough for taxpayers' money, especially when they are the ones that are saying, at the end of the day, their roads are standing up. What I just can't support that. It's just not, it's too big. Yeah, but that's.
This isn't taxpayers' money, this is gravel tax money.
I understand that, Councilor Brown. Therefore, we gotta work with the people that are submitting that gas tax money or gravel levy to fix the road. The roads have to be fixed. That's not the bone I'm picking here. What I'm picking here, it's too vague. When we write a tender, that whoever's gonna submit a tender needs to know exactly where that gravel is gonna be done at the cost of diesel fuel these days and labor. But anyway, that's just my.
But yeah, well, once again, you had no staff to be able to do that before I showed up. I brought Shane back after I was already hired, and it's just been me and Shane. I can't have your grader operators doing that. They've been battling the snowstorm, and hopefully not one tonight. I don't see bringing it.
Anybody have any questions? If not, you gotta move in a second. Call
Bob and Ed.
for the question. All in favor? Opposed? I'm not gonna oppose it, just for principle. We gotta, our tenders really need some care here. Just exercising my democratic right.
But you didn't call for a recorded vote, so.
What's that?
You didn't call for a recorded vote, so it's just.
Nope. It's just carried. Yep, that's fine. Okay, moving on to the next one. Number 11.2. Motions. Didn't we already go with this?
I just can't resolution, you guys haven't waited. Because you guys had a resolution saying you wouldn't hire him back. January or February, you said.
Until council decided.
Yeah,
Just to bring him back.
the seasonal position.
I'll move be it resolved that the Rural Municipality of Cornwallis call back seasonal employees named shall the position of seasonal public works / grader operator at the hourly rate of 24.03, an additional $1 per hour premium while operating a motor grader effective April 8, 2020.
Second. Councilor Rowan. Anybody have a question?
It's already back, right?
Yes, definitely. It's retroactive.
Yeah.
Well, it says effective.
Yeah.
All in favor? Okay.
We'll make a motion to be it resolved, the council approves CAO owners attendance at the 2023 MMA conference and annual general meeting with all expenses covered as per the employment agreement.
Second by, anybody have any question?
I'm not even certain if I'll attend it.
Yeah.
That's still
Gives you authorization. Yeah.
determined. It's at the end of the month.
Anybody have a question? Yeah, all in favor? Carried.
Be resolved, council, Iron Cornwallis, appoint Terry Ross, the alternate member of the Keystone Planning District for the board, Iron Cornwallis.
Second. I'll second.
Kind of
Yeah,
step down as chair to.
what's that?
Yeah.
This is an alternate.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just the alternate, because Keystone has been putting a lot of pressure on us, who's our alternate. I'm shooting myself. So did you second it? Yeah, no. This is an alternate.
It's for the alternate.
I can second it,
Yeah, or, yeah, just to get the discussion going.
but okay, so are we discussing it?
Yeah, what? once it's seconded,
Okay. What about Bob's already on, is he not? Do we have to do?
no, Bob was not at the moment. Shane and myself are on it, so Keystone has been asking us for an alternate, and we asked them at the last meeting. Or to inform them at the last Keystone planning meeting that we will appoint an alternate, so I put Terry's name in as the. So,
No, the only, but I mean, should we have to remove Bob permanently?
he is removed, that was, well, he's removed until at the moment, yeah.
But they want somebody in there,
Yeah.
alternate, just in
Okay.
case.
And we promised them at the last meeting that we will have an alternate, so. So, anybody have any other
Just
questions?
in case something happens.
All in favor? Against?
I'm abstaining.
Abstain. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Against or for?
No, I'm,
For, so 4-1 and Bob's abstaining. RF, no.
I don't know if you guys receive these quite often, but this is a growing commonality or however you want to say it in municipalities, especially with the access to the CRTC's fiber internet plan to provide rural areas of fiber internet. RF now is requested to put a fiber line to go across the kind of corner. You should see a map in your package. Even though we don't push it, apparently the RM has had a good working relationship with RF now prior when they are digging in our ditches and working in these areas. If they do not meet our level of satisfaction, they go back and they clean up any messes and ditches and problems like that. So I've been asked to kind of bring that forward.
Somebody can
I'll
make
make
a
a
motion.
motion whereas we're at now Inc. Has requested tying into an existing fiber line and continuing north and then east along the north side of Road 49 North. Service customer location at Southwest 11, 9, 18 West. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Iron of Cornwallis approval of now Inc.'s request to expand the fiber line across Road 49 North to service Southwest 11, 9, 19. Rephrase that, 11, 9, 18 West.
Okay, have a second. Terry Ross, Bob moved it. Any second, anybody have a question? I just have a comment, exactly what the CEO mentioned there. There's a lot of that cable buried. That's why we implemented the reasons for that call before you dig. There is so almost every mile now. They're out there constantly RF now and perhaps other companies, so we've got to be careful that we implement that product. Are they doing that call before you dig?
Well, I think we dug that.
Yeah, okay, just because we click one of those lines.
If I may, they put the line down at my house, connect the neighbor, but I own whatever and they redirect it, they clean everything up, whatever. So if something happens, give me a call.
Yep.
And you were satisfied with their cleanup after?
Yep.
Good to hear.
Yeah, that's great. They did a good job in Shader here 5 years ago. So, yeah, it's just that we don't want to cut that line when we go in there with stop signs and we can knock down.
Yeah, they did mine 2.5 years ago, and they marked everything before, and it was like that. It's like a big collage of colors in my yard apparently, so they found everything, but RF now was diligent and they are very. And they clean it all.
So be careful if you're tilling a garden close to your property.
Yeah, in the front yard.
11.6. Yeah, 11.6. There's a motion there to change the meeting in May at the request of the CEO.
RF now go.
I have a mover and seconder.
Yeah, okay, I'll call for the question. Sorry. Yeah, on the paper. Sorry. Yeah.
Whereas the May 2023 scheduled meeting of the Rural Municipality of Cornwallis Council is set for May 16, 2023. Therefore, be it resolved that the May 2023 scheduled meeting of council be changed to May 15, 2023, and a notice of the meeting date change be provided notice accordingly.
Have a seconder. Councilor Brown or Terry, whoever you want.
Over Terry that time.
Yeah, okay. Anybody have any question? Can the CEO explain why you're?
Financial plan requirements are May 15th to have it passed. So it's just easier, instead of having a special meeting, we just slide our day back one day. We can meet the May 15th requirement for our financial plan and the notice and all those things.
Great explanation. I'll call for the question. All in favor? Carried.
Okay, so now we're gonna go into the added items.
You know,
So the first one would be the spring flood repair, site
yes.
2 and 9.
I'll make that motion, whereas the RM of Cornwallis incurred flood damage during the 2022 spring flood event. And whereas sites number 2 and number 9 have not been repaired and require professional services beyond the abilities of RM. Therefore, be it resolved that the council of the RM of Cornwallis enter into a professional services agreement with Stantec Consulting Limited for engineering services and project management for the flood damage repairs to the 2022 spring flood event sites number 2 and 9.
Have a seconder? Terry? Please. Anybody have a question? For that? Yep, okay, did you clear that? All in favor? Yep, carried.
Okay, our next item was dust control
It's
prices.
11.8. Okay, the motion's in front of us.
Whereas the rural municipality of Cornwallis under the dust control policy file reference 3231.005 establishes a rate for a single application of dust suppressant covering approximately 300 feet of roadway. And whereas council feels it's in the best interest to change the application rate to reflect costs incurred by the rural municipality. Therefore, be it resolved that the council of the rural municipality of Cornwallis hereby update the dust control policy, section 2, subsection C, to set the dust control application rate at 290, 229, sorry, 229 per application.
Yep, can I have a second? Yep, Councilor Ross. Anybody have a question?
So this item was identified in the financial plan. Council asked me what the cost was. The 229.52 number is only the chemical application. It does not include any other additional fees, charges, administrations, or services. So that was where the 229.52 came from.
Could you maybe comment on what you've seen other municipalities charge?
300 is Armor Portage, because usually they build in other costs. Like when we do the dust control program, it requires Public Works to go out there and put stakes out where the beginning of application, end of application is. Usually those stakes can't really be harvested and recovered every year because they are just small little stakes at the whim of everything else. So we need to buy those. It requires our water truck and at least 5 days of personnel time. Administration sends out letters and then we have to process the payments, but none of those costs are set within the 229.52. And that's where you'll see other municipalities that offer dust control services. Will be much higher than the 229.52 because that includes those other considerations. Where at this time, council feels it's just best to charge just what the chemical of the dust suppressant costs.
Also, in the past, the municipality has been subsidizing that at a rate of 2 to 1.
Like you were previously charging $100, yeah. So that's not including staff wages, equipment, the truck use, repairs, maintenance, fuel.
That's a good point, Terry, because we used to say it's a 2 to 1, because the 229 is solely the chemicals. Like the CEO just explained, it doesn't account for the truck to drive out there to pound in the stakes, the truck.
The hours for someone to do.
Yeah, we watered
Yeah,
before.
so
And then
I'll be shocked if we can do it for $70 or $80, all those tasks. So by next year, hopefully we can get a better cost estimate and we can change it if the council so chooses. Yeah, and we're also, right now, these council is not aware how many individual sites. We asked administration for that count, just to give us an idea of how many individual sites can get that. So, okay, if nobody else has any questions, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Yeah. Now, administration, you will send out the notice to the people that are requesting that, right? It's not in the motion, but that would be because we've got that template.
requesting what?
Well, what they normally do is people request that service.
Oh, I thought you send out the application by mail to them.
What
Did they get it in the mail? They fill it
Or
out?
people inquire, so.
People still can come in
Yeah,
and request it if they have been maybe left off or missed.
Yep.
Having
it,
a,
But all the people who participated in last year, the intention was for them to receive an application this year with explanation that it's no longer 100, it's being set at 229.52 per application.
and we will need that by that certain date. Might want to extend it a little bit for budgeting purposes, so just something new for you there.
I didn't get a mover and a seconder as well.
Yeah, you did.
yeah, Shane and Terry.
Sorry about that.
Yep, and, yep, there's discussion, okay, if nobody else has any more questions, all in favor? Yeah, we did, but when he said, oh, I just want to make sure. Yeah, okay, it's good, so that's a step in the right direction.
Do we not have a hard stop time?
Oh, at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
I think it's like, we're almost done, normally at 9:30. Council Brown would usually, this is aware to extend the meeting, but we don't have to. Roadside mowing, we should take us half an hour.
Cancel last night. Oh, we got bird.
Yeah. Okay, we got one there.
Same thing. Be resolved that the council of the RM Cornwallis hereby approve the engineering service agreement as prepared by Burns Consulting.
I'll have a seconder, but I would like to make a friendly amendment once it's on the floor.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. Okay, Mr. Maxwell? Just want to see, that was for that water, that's not for any engineering service agreement, that's for the water treatment,
Water.
yeah, water study, feasibility study, Grand Valley. It's not in here. This, when I read this,
It was in there.
It was, yeah.
It's gone,
I
so
saw it.
maybe we-
no, it's not in the motion though.
I know, but it wasn't.
It wasn't
before, so I'm not sure. it's on.
Oh, I just want to make it clear so everybody's aware, this is strictly for the feasibility study, Grand Valley. It's on here, but it's just a.
It was on there. I don't know.
So if we can make somebody get a friendly amendment, make it, just so it relates to that agreement there.
So it'll say hereby approve the engineered service agreement
Yeah.
for Grand Valley Water Treatment.
Yeah, and ENC 02218. There's another one coming, I understand, for the Gray Road zone. Okay, so
It's up
if
on
we can make
seven,
that friendly.
it's up
amendment.
on 7.1.
Yeah, I'll make that friendly amendment. Or-
Yep.
And a new second.
I did, yes.
Okay.
So you'll agree to
So if
this.
you
It's
guys
on
are okay, it's for that.
7.1.
Oh, is it moved?
Yeah, it's on 7. You can.
Oh, that's why. Oh,
I didn't get
okay.
the-
Okay.
The attachment didn't give it that. I know.
Yeah, I saw it earlier, yeah.
Okay, so nobody has a question? Call for the question, all in favor? Yeah. Some with some activity going on out there, so. Okay, what's the roadside? 11.10.
Oh, you fixed it.
You want me to read them?
You ready for it?
You want me to read it, Mark?
I'll go with this.
Yeah, sure.
Whereas the rural municipality of Cornwallis and Livingston Landscaping Limited have agreed for roadside mowing contract for the years 2020 to 2024, and whereas due to the significant rise in fuel costs, Livingston Landscaping has requested council allow for a fuel surcharge for the 2023 contract year. Therefore, be it resolved that the council of the rural municipality of Cornwallis authorized a 15% fuel surcharge for the 2023 roadside mowing program for Livingston Landscaping Limited.
Can I have a second? Shane, second? Yeah.
We got that 15%
From the fuel surcharges that the Manitoba government was allowing contractors last year when it came to any EMO repairs or disaster. Because people, once again, would bid on the job, take these jobs, but then realize what happened with the fuel world, which is the same story that Livingstone Landscaping is requesting. So the 15 number kind of came from the province. It's what DFA approves. Okay, thank you.
But personally, I don't think it's an unreasonable request. It's only a request. Because when he bid on it in 2020, that was pre-COVID. We've got a whole different world out there now. Things have gone through the roof. So I think it's a reasonable request and we definitely don't want to terminate the contract because I think it's a good idea to hold it interesting. Anybody else have any question? We'll see how good of a negotiator Jordan is. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Carried.
And then we've already
did that. Yes, we already did that.
second rolling, so
Quieter. Is there something that we- quieter? No inquiries. Notice of motion.
nothing was filed.
And we'll adjourn the meeting. You said we don't need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
The council name.
Yep. Who wants to adjourn the meeting?
let's adjourn.
Ed got it.
It's over.
Yeah. That's it. Thanks.